It's been raining on and off, but not at the moment. So I thought, let's take advantage of this dry spell and have a look around my mid-spring cottage garden here in New South Wales, Australia. Daylight savings started last week, so it doesn't get dark here till around 7:15, 7:30, which I'm absolutely loving. Get to spend a bit of extra time out in the garden in the evenings. But something I've noticed with these longer days, in combination with the warmer weather as the temperatures begin to rise, is that this garden is in transition. It's moving away from those cool weather crops into the ones that thrive in the warmth. I don't even need to second guess myself because some of these plants are telling me what to do. Like here with the lettuce, they're starting to go to flower and they'll be setting seed soon. So these plants are pretty much finished. It's a wrap, so I can pull this pot out and put a fresh one in there. Even though there's still plenty of lettuce foliage on here, it's not very edible. It's quite bitter. See, once these plants start to stretch out like this one is doing here, beginning to produce some flower buds on top, eventually producing seeds, which is essentially just called bolting, this creates a chemical reaction within the plant, releasing compounds, and it's those compounds that give the leaves that bitter flavour. If I was just to hand you a bunch of leaves from these plants, they look normal, don't they? They look like lovely, fresh, well, maybe not that fresh because I haven't watered the plant today, so they're not super crisp. But they do, they just look like fresh little baby lettuce leaves. Very deceptive. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference, but oh, you certainly would if you tried to eat one of these. I have tried over the years seeing if I can reverse this, making the leaves taste delicious again by, giving it liquid feeds, trimming off the stems here to try and stop the flower from bolting, and perhaps maybe that will stop the compounds producing. But really nothing seems to work for me. Sometimes if you get the plants when they're just starting to shoot out like this, like maybe when it's an inch or two long and you cut it off, you can kind of delay this process. But in general, I find the best thing to do if this starts to happen, or you notice it happening, is plant some fresh seeds or seedlings. These don't have to be a complete waste though, because I have found that you can actually cook them off, which helps to mellow out the flavour, get rid of that bitterness, and you can add them into sauces that you're going to puree or soups. And of course you can always just leave the plants here, allowing them to go to flower, which will help to attract lots of beneficial bugs. The two cornflower plants which I have in this pot are beginning to flower. It looks like they're both the same coloured blooms. You can get cornflowers in a few different colours. Blue is the most common, but I think I'm enjoying this light pink one. It's a bit different. I've grown these plants before as a cut flower to add into my arrangements, which I wasn't crazy about. I found them very time consuming to harvest. This one's not too bad. You got the one stem there. I can just rub off or pull off all the foliage here by pushing down with a bit of a firm touch. But I did find with the cornflowers, what generally happens is on top of the stem, you don't seem to get a lot of these buds flowering at once. It's usually just one here or there. I don't know, I don't think I'll be growing these again to put into my arrangements, but I do enjoy having them out here in the garden, and they are one of those blooms that generally flowers for me in mid-spring, so it kind of is in that transition period between the cool loving plants, cut flowers like stock, and say the more sun loving ones, warm weather ones like zinnias. So it's a good in-between flower to have in the garden to keep that colour going. All of these dainty white flowers are from some bok choy plants that just bolted in the pot, and I've noticed that quite a number of them now are starting to form these seed pods. There's some larger ones here on this stem. It's just amazing to think that one bok choy plant can produce hundreds of seeds. I just opened one of them up to show you what they look like inside. Now these seeds aren't mature yet, they're still very green. I'll have to wait until the pods turn brown and then I'll know the seeds are ready to harvest. I just wish I was better seed saver, because I guarantee, well I shouldn't even say it, but next year I bet you I'm going to buy more bok choy seeds. I'm really, look at this opportunity I have here in front of me, a whole entire plant that I can pick, harvest and get hundreds and hundreds of little new plants next year if I wanted. I noticed the celery plant that I have growing in this container is quite limp. Well, some of these stems are, and the others aren't as stiff as you'd expect them to be. I tried to break off a stem just to see what the flavour's like. You can even notice there, see, it's just not snapping off. And oh my goodness, trying to figure out what's going on with plants sometimes can be a real process of elimination. Like, there are a number of reasons why your celery, you can't even break that off, look at the state of it. There's a number of reasons why your celery stems can be limp like this. Probably what I'm guessing with this one here in particular, I don't even know what I'm doing with this now, I've completely messed that one up. I reckon with this plant it's for two reasons. The first being that it is still quite small, it hasn't reached its full size, and second of all, I reckon I'm not giving it enough water, because with celery plants they need a lot of water for those lovely delicious, look I can't even break this one off, crispy stems. No, sorry plant. I've just popped over to the raised garden bed area because I do have another celery plant in this spot, and I thought let's go and check out and test these stems and see if they're any more crisp. No, it's still the same. Interesting, because this one is a bit larger. It could possibly be lack of nutrients, which I highly doubt here because I have replenished the soil and it's quite rich in there, and the other plants around it seem to be doing well, like the broccoli. And oh my goodness, don't get me started on that, the Jerusalem artichoke. Silly me, I did not pull out enough of the, is it tubers? I always get mixed up between tubers and roots and everything. I have corms, I'm always getting confused with them. Whatever's growing underneath there, the Jerusalem artichokes, I've left way too many in the ground, and this is crazy. I wonder if I can dig some of them up. Actually, I might see if I can grab one now and take a look at an individual one. Where do I even begin? Like, it's like a jungle. I showed you this patch a couple of weeks ago when I came back to YouTube. I don't even think they had much of a sprout on top, and look at it now. Jerusalem artichokes are really delicious, but a second use for them too is that you can actually use the foliage in cut flowers. Oh, I'm just trying to grab one out. Oh, I think I've messed that up. Yeah, I've just got the stem, this part. Oh, okay, I should really have gloves on. We'll go a bit deeper and see what's in here. I'm determined to get a piece. I just grabbed this trowel because there's no way I'm going to get that out with my hands. And there are too many spiders in this garden for me to feel comfortable sticking my fingers down here. I don't want to get bitten. Sorry, got it all over my phone now. There we go, there's a nice piece. Jerusalem artichoke. I wonder if I've got one here. Oh yes, look at this. I wonder if I can transplant that now. I reckon I could. I probably should have done it a while ago when the stem wasn't as long, but I might put some of these elsewhere in the garden because they have beautiful long stems and gorgeous flowers that look like sunflowers. I feel like I'm jumping all over the place in this video, but while I'm over here I might as well take a look at a few more things. Now this is a rainbow chard, a lovely orange one, and look at the size of that leaf. It's massive. Don't think there's going to be any issues with breaking the stem of this. I reckon it will snap right off. Mark my words. No, it didn't come off there. I just had a bite of this stem and it is so sweet. It tastes like I'm eating beetroot. I had to put it over here beside these poppies. They look so good together. You might think that's a bit of an odd combination, But I sometimes leave some of these rainbow chard plants in the ground and they produce these really long thick stems with lots of little seeds on them, which I think look quite whimsical, and you can harvest them and use those rainbow chard stems in bouquets. So putting these two together is not that odd. Now the reason why I'm picking up that beetroot flavour from this rainbow chard is that they're both actually closely related. I'm just over by another rainbow chard plant, but this one's yellow, and in the container garden I have a red one. Don't ask me how I'm mentioning compounds twice in a gardening video when I wasn't super into science. I did like biology, but is it chemistry? Not really my thing. But the reason why both this rainbow chard stem and the beetroot have that distinct flavour is because they both have the same compound in the plant, which gives it that unique beetroot taste. I have a bunch of flowers in bloom at the moment, like this big patch of Peruvian lilies, and I find the more I pick these flowers, the more stems shoot up. So I think what I'll do is I'll put together a little garden bouquet, and I'll show you a new area in the renovations that I'm planning to use during the growing season to make my arrangements. I need to grab my secateurs or scissors, but I will pick a load of these. Then I've also got loads of this blue borage in flower, so we can grab some of these too. And then for some foliage, which will add a bit of texture, what you're looking at here are the Misuna plants, which I showed you a couple of weeks ago when they went to flower, and now they are setting seed, and I just love the look of these. When I first discovered how beautiful these Misuna stems look like when they start to form their pods, I got so excited because I thought this would be the absolute perfect filler for my arrangements that I sell. But unfortunately, I have come to realise that even though they hold up well in the vase and they look as beautiful as you see here, they do begin to smell. You know, sometimes if you have like broccoli, you cook broccoli and you leave it out because you haven't cleared the dishes, and you get that kind of really strong whiff. Well, that's what happens to these after a couple of days in the vase. They begin to stink. For any of you who are thinking of selling homegrown flowers, this is a really good tip. If you've got something that looks good and is new and you haven't read in the books that it works well as a cut flower or foliage, you really need to test it out first. Leave it in your own house for a few days in the vase, even up to a week, and see how long the blooms hold up, the foliage holds up, because the last thing you want is to add something like this in. You just don't want to get a bad reputation for giving people, you know, a low power product. So I will be using them in my flower arrangements at home because I can always just change them up or get rid of them, but there's no way I would be able to add these into arrangements that people are going to purchase. For anybody that's new here, I've been telling you over the last couple of weeks that we've been doing a lot of renovating, and this back garden got dug up for a stormwater trench here, so I can't really do much out in this section at the moment. But while I was just giving it a bit of a clear up because it was looking very overgrown, I didn't notice this before, but I have this self-seeded sunflower. Not going to pick it, I'll leave it out here to enjoy when I'm down in this area because there's not much more going on. And yeah, I just thought you might enjoy seeing that. Isn't it so pretty? And then in this very messy area, I have left all of these self-seeded poppies. I think there are, I don't know, hundreds of them. They stretch over maybe, I would say, roughly 8 meters long. Look at all of these, and they're all going to flower soon. Well, hopefully they'll make it to flower, because the race is really on now whether these will flower or the builder will be coming out here to do a bit of flattening out of the land because it's quite uneven at the moment. So I don't know what's going to happen first. I really hope I get some of these to flower because they are just so stunning. Okay, so I've just picked the flowers that I mentioned I was going to harvest. The Peruvian lilies, the Misuna seed pod. Actually, some of them have a bit of white powdery stuff on it. It's probably some kind of mold because it has been raining. And then you've got the borage plants. And actually, when I was picking these, I was a little bit nervous. Not that I'm afraid of them or anything, but there's plenty of bees about. They do truly love this flower. Let's get this inside because I want to show you one of the new rooms that's part of the renovation. Here's the new area that I thought, as well as being a laundry room, I could use it for my flower arrangements. It's quite a large space, relatively for laundry, I guess. Well, I think compared to the one that we had before. So I've got lots of bench space there where I can prepare my flowers, and I've got the tub with some fresh water, and there's plenty of storage as well. So I'm thinking what I may do is take over a couple of these cupboards with my supplies for Bren's blooms. I'll have to figure out something about the lighting in here, because if you look, I put the light on, it flickers. So I may have to bring the ring light in here when I'm putting together the bouquets, if I'm ever going to show you in the videos. So what I'll do is I'll quickly go off camera, put something together here in a vase, and then we'll take a look at it. Okay, this is what I've come up with so far. It definitely needs a bit of rearranging, but I've got about 10 minutes before I have to collect my kids from school and get this video edited and posted. So I think for the moment, this is how it's going to stay. Maybe next week I'll give you an update on my little fluffing around with it and seeing if it looks any better. That's about it for this week, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great 7 days ahead, and happy gardening.